make some sense of it all, but I can see it makes no sense at all. Is it cool to go to sleep on the floor? 'Cause I don't think that I can take anymore. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you.
Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today is Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. Have you started thinking about Valentine's Day yet? I don't mean to push all the holidays and things like that. I like holidays. I think holidays are fun, and the world is what you make it. And so if you put a lot into that, then, and I'm not necessarily saying like, oh yeah, like celebrate Valentine's Day and all that. Not necessarily. Celebrate Friday, whatever. But make sure you take time to stop and smell the roses, eat your chocolate cereal, or whatever is that thing that makes you get out of bed in the morning. Make sure you embrace those things, because that's what life is all about, not this politics and things like that. This is all very divisive, but entertaining. How feminism kills nations. That's at the end of the show today. And I think he makes a good biological argument. And I think that I not necessarily ascribe to all of it, but I think he makes a good argument. I think it's a good argument. Mainstream talking points that Ottawa does not seem to be helping Canada or Canadians. So it seems like it's more in the mainstream now. Alberta Prosperity Project. Where's the Ontario Prosperity Project? Saskatchewan's got one. BC's got one. Alberta's got one. Is Manitoba in there yet or no? Wab Canoe says yes or heck yes to stay in Canada. But I think that it's interesting that this conversation that the federal government is not looking out for Canada's or Canadians' best interests, that's a mainstream talking point, and that's vastly different than where we used to be 15 years ago. And I think that that's interesting. We should note that's why isn't the government prioritizing our well-being? Why is the government prioritizing Ukraine? Or why is the government prioritizing other foreign wars, right? Israel, all of that kind of stuff. Why are we sending all of this money when we have homeless encampments in our parks, and we don't have enough room for anybody, but we have open borders, and we don't have enough jobs. Our kids aren't working, but we've got affirmative action for foreign workers in that age category. And these kids don't know Canada, but they're working in Canadian museums. They don't know how to speak English, but they're working as tour guides. It seems really, really strange. Why is it that all Canadians are noticing this, and why is the government allowed to continue? I don't think they work for us. That's why. Trump derangement syndrome is just rampant. It's so crazy. And like, one of the things that I note is they keep saying, oh, Trump's losing his base. Nobody likes him. Nobody trusts him. He's in the Epstein files. And this plays like Russia, to be quite honest with you. And some of the pictures I'm seeing out of the Iranian stuff now remind me of October 7th and propaganda after the October 7th thing. There's all these pictures of pretty women and children dead. And I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical because you can just create people with AI now, and like, where are their families, and how come we're not seeing press conferences from grieving widows? No, we're not seeing anything like that. We're not seeing any families, mothers, fathers, nothing like that. Images of people who supposedly died, and we're supposed to unquestioningly go along with this. And so it's interesting to me. It seems a lot, again, echoes of the Russia hoax, and people wanting me to hate Trump and get on board with the globalist agenda. And okay, sure. Is Trump perfect? Nah, he's not perfect. But he's pissing off all the right people, and having a whole bunch of people say Trump's a dictator, Trump's this, Trump's that, is not convincing me at all. And the Epstein files, man, there's some interesting things in there, but it's so full. It's like a viper's nest. Like, there might be something of value in there, but my gosh, you're going to get bit a bunch of times, right? Like, it's so, there's a whole bunch of questions, more questions than answers, but we're in an information war. And so things are really strange, but I think that we've been in an information war for a while. And if you don't know where you are, well, you can't orient properly, and that's the point, right? And so people don't know that we're in an information war, and so they take all of these things at face value like it was 2018 or something. And come on, guys, didn't you live through COVID? Holy smoke. Cabinet members being given posts outside of Canada. So Bill Blair's gone, Chrystia Freeland's gone. All these cabinet members who were controversial cabinet members are being jettisoned, but we still have some controversial cabinet members who are trying to steal our guns and things like that. So that's interesting to note as well. There's some concern for some cabinet members, but not others. Bill Blair is going to England. Chrystia Freeland went to Ukraine, which is a conflict of interest, but who cares about that, right? Ethics, schmethics. Spain is cracking down on social media for kids, which is a backdoor to digital ID. Canada's fourth most indebted country in the world, and the U.S. has less debt than we do. And that's interesting. That's pretty scary when you look at things, because the U.S. is a lot bigger than us. And if the U.S. has less debt than us, are they also counting provincial debt in that number? The answer is no. I don't think they are. So, yikes. It's worse. It's so much worse than we thought. And Grok is owned by SpaceX. Now, we're going to talk about free speech to start. I'm hoping we get into the grab bag of governance, but I wanted to talk about what's going on with COVID and the 15 years of slamming the door on virus injuries and vaccine injuries and things like that. So we've got a lot to talk about, lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, Pavel Durov says French police are currently raiding X and their X office in Paris. France is the only country in the world that is criminally persecuting all social networks that give people some degree of freedom. Telegram, X, TikTok. Don't be mistaken. This is not a free country. Election Wizard says, right, this isn't just about some vague cybercrime probe. Let's be clear, it's part of a broader pattern where European governments, especially France, target platforms like X, Telegram, and others that prioritize user freedom over state-approved moderation. This isn't routine enforcement, it's intimidation. Vice President Vance has been sounding the alarm on exactly this for over a year. Vance's line that the biggest danger to Europe isn't Russia or China, but the threat from within looks even more prescient now. The Trump administration needs to act decisively here, publicly and strongly condemn the raid. This raid is an attack on free expression, make clear diplomatic representations to France and the EU, and consider reciprocal measures if these escalate into fines or bans under laws like Digital Service Act. VP Vance's prior warnings give them the perfect framework. Stand up for free speech globally or watch authoritarian creeps spread under the banner of regulation. And that's exactly what they're trying to do under the banner of regulation. So what does Elon Musk do? It's a national security matter, folks. It's national security, because when it's national security, it's a whole different ballgame. And you've got the entire United States military and state apparatus behind you then, right? So X sold Grok. Who did it sell Grok to? SpaceX, of course. And so X is the platform, but X sold Grok. Previously, Grok was an outgrowing of X. X and Grok were one and the same. And now Grok is its own thing, and now it belongs to SpaceX. So you're going to prosecute an American national defense company? That's the play here, I think. And Corey says, okay, so what's it called now? SpaceX AI? X Space AI is X.com, now SpaceXAI.com or AIX.com. So many questions. The Globe and Mail is reporting Elon Musk merges SpaceX with XAI in record-setting deal, valuing new company at $1.25 trillion. So that's my new, can you just value a company? Man, Canada Poly just got way more valuable. But yeah, so I think that's the play here. I think that's what's going on. Grok is already integrated into U.S. military Pentagon computers, and the SpaceX is already taking military and U.S. defense funds. It's a defense company, right? Like putting rockets into space. That's a U.S. national defense thing. And now Grok is a U.S. national defense thing. Good luck, France. You're on the losing end of this, and you're about to find out after you F around. So we'll see. But I don't think there's any danger here for Grok at all, period. One of the things, I got this from a viewer this morning, and she was telling me that she was trying to watch the show on Spotify, and that it was just circling. And I said, okay, can you download it? And she could download it. So if you are watching the show, you can download it from my website too. I've heard that my website does this as well, but it'll freeze and stop my words or whatever. If you just download the daily show, then you can watch it locally on your whatever your device is, and then you can delete the thing, and it's fine. Okay, so just download it, and it'll work just fine. The other way you can get an uninterrupted experience, and I usually send out a Canada Poly Blue newsletter saying like, this is how you access this. But if you just add the paid stream to your RSS feeder or RSS catcher or podcast catcher, then it will download the MP3 of the audio. It doesn't rely on streaming. It'll download the MP3 because it's so small, and it'll hold on to the MP3 until you listen to it. There won't be any kind of stutters or anything like that. But what happens on Spotify is what happens with Jasmine Lane, right? So you start the show and it just gives you a green circle. And same thing as Moose on the Loose, green circle. But if you're doing the Wealthy Barber in Canada, no problems. Right? No problems there. He's not getting into controversial anything. Knowing about your money is fine. And Canadian real estate investor, you can learn to invest real estate, but you can't listen to what's going on in politics, even from a schmo in his garage like me, right? Because, that's even worse. I'm not educated in the ways of the politics. Bullshit. Anyway, I find it interesting. That's the way around it. If you want to get around it, download the episode natively, just to bring it onto your device, and then it won't pause. But it's a pain in the ass. And I'm sorry that we live in such a shitty country that they're doing this, but they are doing this, and it's not just me anymore. And so that's interesting. And I wonder what these people think, because this has been me since 2020, right? And these people have all built huge platforms around that, and all of a sudden they're being censored. I wonder if they're going to have anything to say about it, right? So I don't know. Will anybody hear it? Spain's doing the same thing, and the United States needs to crack down on this too. Not national security necessarily, but they'd be fools if they allowed this to continue. And Spain's in Europe, right? So Disclosed TV says Spain's prime minister announces new legal measures against the dangers of social media, including banning it for under 16s, making tech CEOs face criminal liability. Take that, Elon Musk, for not removing illegal or hateful content. What's hateful? You can't have... What I think is hateful is going to be different than what you think is hateful, and what this guy thinks is hateful, and what Hillary Clinton thinks is hateful, and what Donald Trump thinks is hateful. And so having hate crimes, or we need to remove this hate speech, we all agree that this is hateful. Well, hold on a second. Maybe I don't agree that this is hateful. Maybe I think that he's exactly right in his hateful speech. Maybe broccoli did him dirty, right? Maybe he's got a reason to hate broccoli. And who are you to tell him not to hate broccoli? So F off, right? Hate speech. Get out of here with your hate speech nonsense. I've got my reasons, and those effing Cardis, I'll never turn my back on them, says O'Brien, right? And so he's got his reasons. Is that hateful? I don't think so. So anyway, illegal or hateful content, turning algorithmic manipulation and amplification of illegal content into a new criminal offense, and developing a new system to monitor hate, because spreading hate must come at a cost. Bullshit. And they're trying to backdoor this using under 16s access to social media as a cudgel, because how do you know who's under 16? Well, everybody's got to be in your system, and then you can know how old everybody is. So here you get to be in the system at 10 years old, so you're used to it when you're 16. And when you're 16, you get all these special privileges. You get censored social media, you lucky 16-year-old you. So like, bullshit. It's all propaganda. It's all propaganda. If they're mainstreaming it, if they're talking about it on their news programs, you probably don't have an angle. They're probably purposely not covering an angle in order to frame it somehow. And so you're being misinformed, even if you feel informed. And that's terrible. That's terrible, because the news is supposed to inform you, and right now it's just a propaganda tool being used by the government. Basil the Great is talking about the United Kingdom, and he says Keir Starmer's personal friend, Lord Hermer, signed off on Lucy Connolly's prosecution for a social media post. This was an organized witch hunt to make an example of her. So Labour are vile. They did this to scare people, and then it fell apart and they had to release her early. But they did this to scare people into compliance. And is it going to work? Just like COVID didn't work, and there was no we didn't vote our way out of COVID. Nobody voted their way out of COVID. We said, no, we're not effing doing this anymore. And the trucker said, no, we're not doing this anymore. And then everybody said, oh shit, they're really not doing this anymore. They're not playing. And so they lost. And so that was not a political situation. We just said, no, F you, we're not doing it. And so if they come in on us with this shit, unless they have compliance, unless they have consent of the governed, it's not going to work, because we're going to say, hey, how about F you? How about no? How about I use my silver instead of your garbage central bank digital currency? How about no? How about get lost? And they'll lose, but they'll maintain power, and they'll try again. And so we've got to deal with the fact that they're going to try and maintain power. And I don't know how to deal with that effectively, because, well, that's the situation we're in now, and we're not being very effective at fixing it. Western Standard, let's move on to the COVID stuff. Western Standard's reporting a little bit more news on what I initially reported yesterday. Health Canada seals vaccine injury records for 15 years. Can they do that? I don't actually think they can. I don't think they can do that. I don't think they have the jurisdiction to do that. It's provincial, and I'll show you in just a minute. But first, Health Canada has locked away internal reports on vaccine and drug injuries for up to 15 years, citing the sheer scale of records involved, according to documents tabled in Parliament. If I was the Prime Minister, I would make a law that says if you can't process the documents, they go public within 5 days. If you can't process the documents within a reasonable timeline, then they all go public with whatever redactions you were able to make, and the rest goes public. So either get it done or don't. I don't really care, but it goes public. That's that. Game over. And I think that would be effective at combating this bullshit, right? And everybody who's implicated, well, there's no immunity. There's no nothing. Like, if you committed a crime and that's evident in these documents, then you're going to jail, buddy. Anyway, I feel like they do redactions to protect people, because that's the kind of government I feel like we have. And I'm a patriotic Canadian in that I love our beautiful country because it's a beautiful place to be, but our governance is third world. And I've woken up to that fact slowly, I guess, but I think it has been for a long time, much longer than people are comfortable admitting. Anyway, the disclosure emerged in an inquiry of ministry response detailing unusually long delays under the Access to Information Act. Health Canada confirmed its longest current extension is 15 years, covering a request for vaccine and adverse drug reaction reports dating back to 1998. Officials say the request originally involved several million pages of records. It has since been narrowed in scope and is now being processed, but the extended delay remains one of the longest on record within the federal government. Public Health Agency of Canada also acknowledged lengthy delays tied to pandemic-era records, because the only thing I can think of is they're altering the records, with one request extended by more than 5 years. So they're doing slowly what they tried to do in broad strokes with their 75-year, locking it away for 75 years. Now it's going to be 15 years hence, and all of the people who did all this stuff will be in different jobs. Nobody will be held accountable. Oh, we've got to process the paperwork. Bullshit. The agency blames the backlog on the volume of material moving through the senior offices during COVID-19, the need for extensive consultations, parliamentary motions, and what it described as the requester's refusal to narrow down the scope of the request. So how dare that requester not narrow down the scope? So we'll just lock it all away forever. You're welcome. Here it is. Matt says, vaccine injury files in Canada have been sealed for 15 years, millions of pages. The Conservative Party was just tossed a softball. They can challenge this and make it a public issue. Watch them do nothing. Yeah. I think, yep. Vaccine Choice Canada says Health Canada has locked away internal reports on vaccine and drug injuries for up to 15 years, citing the sheer scale of the records involved, according to documents tabled in Parliament. The disclosure emerged in inquiry. I already read all of this. Read the full article there. And no, that was just double. Sorry about that. Rebel News is reporting the same thing. Health Canada sealed the vaccine files for 15 years. An order paper response confirms millions of pages on vaccines and adverse drug reactions are sealed until the 2040s, echoing the US FDA's attempt to hide Pfizer's trial data for 75 years. And Peaceful Strength to Reinforce Democracy says this is Communism 101. This is the foundation of communism, not democracy. Hide the facts, control the speech, start calling it what it is. I don't think the Rebel has any interest in really doing that. Donald says it's called conspiracy to obstruct justice under the Criminal Code of Canada. So these people are moving to hide this evidence, are obstructing justice potentially. According to Donald there. And Grey Matter Podcast says Health Canada is a legal fiction. Section 92 of the Constitution Act gives provinces exclusive jurisdiction over health. So Health Canada can't do this, as far as I understand it, except that do they have custody of the documents that are in question? If they have custody of the documents, then possession is 9/10 of the law, right? If you have it, good luck. Out of my cold, dead hands, right? Just like our guns. Table Salt says, let's do our grab bag of governance. We got some time. We're all good. Table Salt says the Hub is reporting that Canada, including private debt, but is it including provincial debt or is it just federal debt? I think it's just federal debt because it's a lot lower than what I think. I think if you include provincial debt too, we're up over $1 trillion. Like we're double the top. We're double Luxembourg. Darn. Right? Crying with Mark is not a compelling show. So we'll continue. But Canada's debt has overtaken the United States debt. See Canada right there, 377 federal billions owed, or I think it's more than that anyway. But the United States has 337 billions owed, or I'm sure that it's more than that. But Trump's been taking a hatchet to their debt. So maybe not. Can you imagine if the United States is down by Latvia or even less debt than Latvia? How powerful the United States will seem. They're trying to undercut Trump's economy. We're going to talk about Trump later in the show, but they're trying to undercut Trump's economy so they can say, see, his system doesn't work. Only our system works, but their system is communism, and it doesn't work. It doesn't. Over the period of time that it's in, it starts to fail, and then it catastrophically fails. And I think we're even watching that in Venezuela, in Cuba, and maybe even China. But my friend keeps saying China's on the brink, and I don't know. I'm very skeptical of that. CTV News is reporting Hanwha. I don't know where Hanwha is. I have a world map in my kitchen because I'm trying to educate my children about the world, and I don't know where Hanwha is. So anyway, Hanwha eyes a major Canadian defense deal, plans Pacific voyage of attack submarine. Cool. I wonder if anybody's made a trade deal with the United States yet. Like, I'm sure this defense deal is a huge defense deal and stuff, but like 80% of our trade is done with the United States. So like, this deal is great and stuff, CTV, but there are bigger deals that need to get done right now, and it's not happening. And that's weird. And nobody cares. Seems like nobody cares. We'll do this, and then we'll move on, and then I'll have to cut the stream. Mentioned in Parliament has MP Sandra asking about the budget implementation bill and the very, very broad powers that MPs have to exempt themselves from everything but the criminal law. So here we go.
So it's section 208 of Division 5, Part 5, where it is allowing any minister to exempt any entity from any provision of any law for which the minister is responsible for a period of up to 3 years, with the exception of the criminal code.
Yeah, that's the law that we both voted for. It's C5. It's the Building Canada Act.
So this was included in the Budget Implementation Act. This was not included when the budget was presented in November. It was not debated exclusively, separately. It is here. So why do you feel that you and the other ministers around you, as well as the Prime Minister, need the power to exempt anybody from any federal law except for the criminal code?
This is specifically designed at accelerating the progress and the ability to move, plan, contemplate, and build large projects.
So we need to exempt people from the law so we can build big things, because we made laws that prevented us from being able to build big things. That's not good, right? Gov.exe says Mark Carney promised a trade deal to build at record speeds and grow the economy to the strongest in the G7. 1 year later, there's no trade deal, nothing is built, and the economy is contracting. Typical Liberal. Promise the world, deliver nothing, and blame others. Financial Post is reporting Canada's economy is on track to shrink 0.5% in the fourth quarter. Yep, that's not very good. This is the last one for today's stream, and then we'll move over to the paid show. But James says, for the record, Canada's monetary establishment is driving a train wreck. With GDP flatlining, private investment gutted, and growth propped up by the state, Canada's elites still prescribe rate hikes. And no, this is not Trump's fault. It's Canada's own policy train wreck. Canada is sleepwalking into decline. GDP growth is negative or stalling, and what faint momentum remains is increasingly driven by public sector activity rather than a vibrant private economy. Private investment per worker has been anemic for years, leaving the capital stock depleted and productivity stagnant by international standards. Yet the same self-satisfied voices on Bay Street and at the Bank of Canada still call for higher rates, as though monetary austerity could somehow conjure productivity. Basic economic theory is not on their side. In an economy that has suffered decades of chronic underinvestment, lower rates are not a speculative gamble. They are a necessary condition for renewed capital formation, for rebuilding the capital stock, and for expanding supply without reigniting inflation. Higher real rates in capital-starved economy do not magically create discipline. They entrench stagnation. Rate hikes in this context are not prudence, they're folly. The Bank of Canada and much of Bay Street are in open denial about the structure of the problem. Business investment has been so weak since the mid-2000s that capital per worker is now shrinking, undermining both competitiveness and wage growth, yet the conversation still treats rate hikes as the only credible option. In what alternative universe does a country with negative or near zero GDP growth, a hollowed-out private sector, and capital formation crisis decide that tighter monetary policy is the answer? First, Canada's slowdown was blamed on Trump's tariffs and external shocks. Now we are told there's no alternative to higher for longer rates. This is not a serious strategy. It's a policy train wreck. The current crop